Morning. While people are away or visiting a different church or on vacation, they regularly send me bulletins so you can get some ideas and see what's happening in different places in our diocese and throughout our country. Someone recently sent me a bulletin from the old cathedral in San Francisco, Old St. Mary's Cathedral. It was founded in 1854 and has been through many fires and earthquakes, as you can imagine, in California. And for the last 116 years, the Paulist priests have run that old St. Mary's Cathedral. Now, you know the Paulists are their charism is evangelization. They do retreats and mission work. So it is in that viewed spirit of missionary vision that their scope may be larger than sometimes the average parish. This is their parish mission statement from the old Cathedral of St. Mary's in San Francisco, California. See what you think of it. We welcome people of all faiths and all races, people of diverse cultures, divorced and separated persons, families with children, gays and lesbians, homeless persons, loving relationships, married couples, single persons, those in recovery, travelers far and near, widows and widowers, visitors. We seek to live the gospel of Jesus Christ, to gather the community and tell the story, to break the bread and to share the cup. We celebrate diversity, a spirit of hospitality, the unity that God wills, enlightening those who seek God, forming small faith communities, reaching out to alienated Catholics, reverencing the dignity of each person, caring for the needs of the less fortunate, empowering Christians to realize their call, providing an oasis in the financial district, honoring understanding among all faiths, nurturing gifts and sharing them, supporting the arts through concerts, pursuing new ways to serve, being a good neighbor. We treasure our past, we hope in our future. That's the mission statement of the old St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco, California. How do you feel about that? Does it resonate with 21st century America? If we're brutally, humbly honest, I think it does. As we read from the Acts of the Apostles, 7 weeks of Easter, that infant church, that nascent church community was certainly very diverse. And the disciples, the 11 minus Judas, were in the upper room in Jerusalem, and they're praying for wisdom, for courage, for strength, to pass on this vision of Jesus, so that the vision of Jesus would be their vision, the teachings of Jesus would be their teachings, the commandments of Jesus would be their commandments, the life of Jesus would be their life. They had to own it. They had to believe it first. And they had to live it. Because it's in living it that we reveal to others our belief, or else we're a hypocrite. And there is nothing that ensconces Jesus greater than hypocrites, who say one thing and act in another way. And a hypocrite is an actor, a performer, a pretender, a false, a phony baloney. That can hold no place in the early Christian community, whether in the 1st century, the 15th century, or the 21st century in America. We have to be authentic disciples. And what makes us authentic? Prayer. There's nothing that fastens us closer to the mystery of Christ's love for us and for everyone in the world than to be people of prayer. And that's why we gather Sunday after Sunday at the table of the Lord, because there's so much in the world that can divide us, but it is God's amazing grace that seeks to unite us in one creed, in one faith, in one people who believe in the resurrection. In Peter's epistle today, he reminds us that suffering is a part of the journey. You don't get too far in the adult life without realizing that life bruises our hearts, breaks our hearts, betrays our hearts, that no life is exempt from suffering. I was watching the bishops in Missouri, in Alabama on TV, after all these horrendous acts of Mother Nature's violence, hurricanes and tornadoes, leaving people with nothing, holding on to hope, whatever peace they can hold on to. I was recently talking with somebody whose father died when she was 5 years of age. Her dad was 35. What's that like, living without parents? I had a funeral yesterday of a couple who was married 72 years. She was 89, married at 17. Her husband and her lived together at the West Hills Rehabilitation Center in Moon Township up on Broadhead Road. And her husband, 102 years of age, is sharp as a tack, knows everything that's going on, and asked to say goodbye and couldn't come to the funeral because of the physical limitations that impeded him from coming. But for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, he was well aware that he was letting go of his life partner to death. But he knew with assurance that he would see her again in the promise of our faith in the resurrection. So don't be ashamed when we suffer, Peter says, because our suffering, especially as a Christian, reveals to the world God's glory. What is your suffering? What are you suffering with? Is it a physical suffering? Emotional, mental suffering? Is it a family suffering? Is it some suffering that you can't even speak? It's unspeakable, but you feel it in your gut and in your heart. We all walk on humanity, friends, and earth has scars, and we have suffering, because Jesus himself suffered to save. And he showed us how to deal with suffering. Not to deny it, not to ignore it. Embrace it. It redeems the world. It brings hope to others. It brings us new courage and new wisdom and new strength. What did you learn from suffering? What did it teach you? What did it reveal to you? Did it make you more compassionate? Did it make you more humble? Did it make you more sensitized to others' plight in life? In the gospel today, Jesus is preparing to leave the world. It's the high priestly prayer where it's a prayer of consecration. It's the oldest and longest prayer in the New Testament. And Jesus' primary concern is that God would strengthen, inspire, and guide his disciples in continuing his mission, whatever generation. His prayer for them reflects his great love for them and concern for them, that they would be steadfast, faithful to their call. We had the graduation of the last class of St. Joseph on Friday this week. There was 9 graduates, 6 girls and 3 boys. For 58 years we've been sharing the story of our Catholic faith. For 6 decades, teachers were here, walking behind the graduates. And from every generation and every age, we have passed on this same common, ordinary, routine gift, yet a rare gift called faith. And the older I get, the rarer I see it. It's a treasure. As you rummage through life, and you scour through life, and you look through, I look for people who have faith. They move me, they inspire me. Not the best looking 10 people, not the people who have all the adult toys, not the people who have the power. Those don't impress me. You know what impresses me? People who have faith. I told the graduating class my dad's hero was Roberto Clemente. Next year will be 40 years anniversary of Roberto Arribas Clemente, the right fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're all so familiar. We know his statue down at PNC Park. We know what he's done in Puerto Rico. We know how he died tragically going over to Nicaragua to bring relief to those who are destitute. But he wasn't just a great, graceful right fielder who's in the Hall of Fame. He showed us by living and dying, by being concerned with others and caring for them, and even risking his life and tragically dying not too long after the plane went airborne. And yet that spirit continues to live on. I think that's what Jesus is saying to his disciples in every generation. Jesus, in this prayer, the high priestly prayer, he consecrates the world. He says, first I pray, Jesus says, for myself, that God will be glorified in me, and I will be glorified in God. That everything I have is God's. And everything God has given me goes back to God. Job said, naked I came in this world, naked I leave this world. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We need to elevate Christ and lift up Christ to others so that others can see in us. St. Irenaeus in the 3rd century said, the glory of God is revealed in a human being who's fully alive. Are you on all cylinders? Or is your life in neutral? Maybe it's in reverse. Maybe it's going away from God and the coming of His kingdom, rather moving forward. Do you live life in the rearview mirror, looking back on your mistakes and your regrets in the past and being stuck? Or is your life have a future? Is it going through to something that is bright? Secondly, Jesus intercedes for His disciples that the challenges that they will face, He will face with them. We're not left to our own doings. He gives us His divine assistance. He will give us the grace that we need if we ask for the grace. And thirdly, Jesus prays for all believers, especially that they would live in unity. And as He's leaving and His life is folding up, as all of our lives one day will fold up, and all that we've come to know on earth will be no more. And we'll just say, Lord, I did the best that I could with what I had. And I gave it all for your glory and for your kingdom. And I trust, Lord, in your love, that my life will have been a blessing to others. A dear friend of mine, Sister Melanie Svoboda, I talk about her a lot, I brag about her a lot. She's a sister of Notre Dame from Chardon, Ohio. She's written 13 books. She was a high school teacher over 20 years. She's been in China, India, Japan. She's lived in these countries. She's about 66 years of age. In 1999, she was asked to be the Mother Superior of the Sisters of Notre Dame in Ohio. And their order, the Notre Dame Sisters, is around the world today. And she was asked to be in charge of 440 sisters. That means you had to be there for all the funerals, be there leading all the conferences, be the advocate for the community, be the leader. And she wasn't so sure she had the capability. She wasn't so sure she's the right person. And she went to this priest to tell him about her fears and her doubts and her concerns. And when she was done, she says, well, what do you think, Father? Do you think I should give it my best shot? And And the priest said to her, "Hey, Melanie, you are God's best shot." God uses human beings to reveal to this world His glory. He uses us who have been baptized into His body to be His living witnesses of the pages of the New Testament. Do others see through the traces of our lives that we bear the suffering of Christ in our humanity, and we bear the glory of Christ in our humanity as well? And the more we bear the brand marks of His suffering, the more we'll see His glory.